All right, we good?
We're good. We're live.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the tech setup. What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a great day. I think we're live here on Facebook and YouTube. I should have tweeted about it. I forgot to tweet about it. But we are here. Hope you're doing great. Let me know where you're joining from, Facebook, YouTube. Let me know if you're doing land deals. If you're out there finding deals today, where are you guys doing deals at? What kind of deals are you doing? We have a lot of people in our community and our network. So if you're new here, welcome. Glad to have you. My name is Clint. I've been investing in land. Hello, my name is Clint. I'm a land addict. I've been investing in land since it's kind of crazy. A little over 8 years now, almost 9. Started when I was 21 years old, and I am 29 now. So I feel I'm young, but I feel like I've been doing this forever. So bought a lot of land, sold a lot of land. And recently we've been doing a lot more value add type stuff in our land portfolio. And that's just what I'm here sharing about. I like to share stuff on the internet. Hopefully it helps you. Two things. One, we have on next Monday. If you thought it was supposed to be here today at this time, you're correct, but we had to switch it. Next Monday, we're going to be doing a webinar just kind of on what a large subdivide deal looks like, how you find it, how you fund it, how you actually do the deal, how you sell it off, and how do you actually make the money at the end of the day. So we're going to be doing that next Monday. There's probably a link wherever you're watching this, or it'll be posted. Actually, no, I think I'm supposed to do. If you want the link, if you want to come to the webinar, just comment webinar on this post wherever you're watching this, and somebody will send it to you. Somebody will send you the link. They'll reply to your comment, or they'll send you a message with the link to the webinar. It's an off Facebook and YouTube webinar. I can't share all these details just on the open internet. So it'll be a one-time webinar. It'll be live, so I hope you can make it. We won't be sending out the replay on this one because there's some juicy details in there. There's some juicy details, and not everybody in my organization wants me to share them all. So we're going to do a one-time webinar next Monday, 11 o'clock. I'm going to be going over a case study of a real deal, dollars transacted, 7-figure profit deal. Pretty cool deal. But again, it's going to be off YouTube, off Facebook, on Zoom in a webinar style. So if you want the link, if you want to go to that, comment wherever you're watching this webinar. My team will send it over. If you are interested in doing these types of deals, these subdivide types of deals, especially the ones I'm talking about and I'll be talking about on Monday, my company, myself personally, I work with 1 or 2 people a month to help you do these. It's expensive. It takes a lot of money really to be good and to do value add land deals well. So if you don't have access to capital, probably not the right program for you out the gate. All that said, if you are interested in learning, growing, doing deals with somebody like myself who actually, this is what I do every day, then you can let somebody on my team know. You can say coaching. You can message me on any platform that you're on, and happy to chat a little more if you're the right fit for that. And I'll also be sharing a little more about that on Monday too. So feel free to join then as well. Okay, today, what did we come up with? Somebody on my team wrote good or garbage. I think garbage or great. All sorts of good stuff going on. So the topic for today that I'm going to talk about is 3 kind of, I don't know if they're hidden or not, but 3 keys, I think, after doing a couple dozen of these minor subdivisions. So again, if you're new here, you don't know what this is. There's a niche within real estate where you can buy 100 acres and turn it into 10-acre properties. And just by doing that, it brings the value up. The amount of money it actually takes to do that is very low compared to the value it adds. And so it's a great strategy to make money in real estate. I've done a lot of deals very similar to what I just described, 50, 100, 200 acres, cutting it down into large acreage properties. And that's a lot of what we talk about. And so I've had some deals go great. I've had some deals go meh. Never had a deal really lose money per se. I've had them not make money as fast as I wish they did. But nonetheless, so far all of our deals have been profitable, which has been great. Just a quick hello to everybody. Mana, Ricky, Sarah, Jared. Nice to see you guys. Sid, what's up, Sid? How you doing, buddy? And let me see if I can see you on Facebook. What do we got here? Who is here on Facebook? Got a little bit of a turnout today. If you're joining a little bit late, just heads up, we were going to be doing a webinar today. Had to move it to next week. Can't share all the details live that I want to share on the internet. So it's going to be next Monday at 11 o'clock. It'll be on Zoom. So if you want the link to that, comment webinar or message somebody on my team wherever you're watching this, and they will send that to you. Jonathan, what's up? Abby, Dusty, Michael, Peter, Tori, Nathaniel. Man, there's so many new people. Our Facebook group is like almost at 8,000 people. I think 6 months ago we were at like 2,000 or 3,000. So we've had a lot of new people, a lot of new faces. Glad to see you. Glad you're here. 3 key things. Let's dive into it. 3 key things that make a great subdivide deal. And if you have questions while I'm live, please feel free to leave them. I try and answer them all. And I try and come back if you're watching this on a replay. Let me know you're watching on a replay. And I'll come back and answer your questions if you leave them in the comments. Okay. 3 lesser known keys, I would say, to a good subdivide deal. Let's say you just find this 100-acre property. It's great. It's perfect. You want to cut it into 10-acre lots, okay? The reason I use that example a lot is in the state of Texas, you can cut properties outside of city limits into 10 acres or larger, basically without needing anybody's approval. It's called a minor land split. You can look that up if you'd like. So that's why I use that example a lot. But one thing people don't think about, I think, enough, because I've seen a lot of these projects start to come to market, and I've seen ones that have done well versus ones that haven't in my portfolio, in my clients' portfolios, and just observing the market, is features. Okay. There's a lot of talk these days about how you can just subdivide any property, cut it up, turn it into smaller properties, and it becomes worth more money. The truth is, a lot of people that maybe tell you that started flipping land like I did, where you're just buying existing parcels and selling them off, buying them cheap, selling them for more. What you're generally looking at with properties like this isn't all encompassing, but a lot of them are in existing subdivisions where they've been cut up at some point, which means somebody's actually already done the work of thoughtfully thinking what it makes sense and how to physically cut the property so they're attractive. A lot of people don't think about it when they're going to subdivide. They just say, oh, I got 100 acres. It's going to cut into 10-acre properties perfectly. That's typically not the case. And so things that are important, first one is features, okay? If you're going to take 100 acres of loomy farmland soil and just cut it up into 10-acre home sites, well, let me tell you, it's not going to do that well, okay? I've done it. I know. It does not work. It's because if you think about it, if you drive up and you're going to buy a 10-acre piece of property to a piece of farmland that was tilled a few months ago, and it's just like loomy, like soil that you're going to sink into, so you can't really walk on the property extremely well. It's clear cut because it's a farm. It doesn't have the feature, doesn't have the curb appeal that maybe a property in an existing subdivision that has some mature trees, that has some coverage, has some growth is going to. Am I saying these properties don't sell? No, all properties sell, but they take longer too. And in reality, what we want to do when we're doing value add land projects at the end of the day is we want to add value. We want to make the property better, right? And so that's one thing I've seen a lot of folks doing. I think a lot's relative, but I've seen some stuff coming to market lately where it's like the land itself from a feature standpoint is not very attractive, right? And so for me, I typically stay away from projects that are just completely flat. They have no growth. They have no like land features like trees, ponds, streams, things of the effect. I think those projects that are just very flat, they just take longer to sell. They will sell, but they're going to go for the lowest amount that land's going for in that market. And they're going to take longer because they're just going to be less attractive. And so that's one thing I want that I don't think enough people talk about when it comes to adding value to land deals is that they need to be featured well. Okay. Number two, second thing, it kind of goes off the first one. If you just take that example of I've got this, 100-acre parcel. Okay. Got this 100-acre parcel here. I'm just going to cut it into 10-acre squares, right? It's perfect. It's just a little, it's a rectangle. It's just going to cut out perfectly. Never the case, okay? Almost never the case that you look at a property that's 100 acres or whatever it is, and you say, oh, I want to cut it up into 5, 10, 15 properties. It's rarely going to cut just in these equal, nice little slices of pizza that everybody thinks. There's, any piece of property that you go out on a walk. It has natural contours to how the land is. It has slope. It has, like I said in part one, features. For example, if you have a pond, it's not going to make sense. Maybe from a math standpoint, a lot line goes along where a pond would be, or goes along where maybe an existing fence line would be, or something to the effect. Makes sense on paper, but when you actually go and walk the land, it would be strange to have a fence in the middle of your property, right? And so oftentimes people don't take into effect the natural proclivities to the property that you're looking at when you're conceptually going through. If you've watched me on any of the last couple calls, you see it's me just going out looking at deals online. Feel free to go back and watch those. You can see I'm estimating, right? But a lot of times, and I probably even say it in those videos, like this probably isn't what it's going to be. I can guess we're going to get 10-acre lots, but in reality, I might get 8 12-acre lots or 7 15-acre lots. Or I might try and go a little more dense, depending on the project. So with this tip, I want to give you something to use when you're actually thinking about the deals you're doing. Instead of breaking things into like lots, okay? So if you say, I'm going to take this, 100-acre property, and it's worth $5,000 an acre, and I'm going to cut it up into 10-acre lots, and I'm going to make it worth $10,000 an acre. I'm going to double its value. That's a good thesis. But I want you to think more about net usable acreage, okay? Instead of just saying, I'm going to get this many lots and they're worth this much, you want to think more through a net usable acreage perspective, right? And then it allows you to be a lot more cognizant on which parts of the property are going to sell for a premium and which ones won't, without having to, like somebody said, just hire a civil engineer. Yeah, well, you can't just hire a civil engineer anytime you want to look at a project. You would go broke because you'd spend $5,000 or $10,000 every time you wanted to look at a project. So you need a way to estimate, is a project going to be profitable without just saying, oh, I'm just going to cut this up into 10-acre tracts, right? Versus looking a little more at net usable acreage, because that can allow you to be a little more free. Like if I know I'm going to lose 3 or 4 acres to how I'm going to cut the property up, then when I'm estimating and I'm thinking about negotiating with an owner, it's going to give me a more accurate, because I see a lot of people get stuck with these underwritings that they get attached to. Like I've looked at a million of them. They're like, man, on paper, this looks so good. And it's like, yeah, it's on paper, right? When you actually take it to the real world and then you start putting money behind projects with earnest money, deposits, engineering reports, there's a ton of stuff that goes into it. When you actually start getting into the weeds with those stuff and your pro forma doesn't align, you end up wasting money. I've seen it a lot of times. I've done it myself. I've lost many $10,000 or $20,000 checks investigating properties that didn't work out. And so you can't just hire an engineer off the cuff for every deal. You really need to be able to think through how to accurately estimate in a pro forma how much you can make on a deal. And I kind of just lay, tip number 2 here, which is your layout or your concept plan. I don't try and solve that problem up front. I just say, this is the best acreage, and I know I'm going to be able to sell it at this price. And this is going to be more medium priced acreage. I'm going to be able to sell it at this price point. And that has, for me, in being very realistic about what those price points are, has allowed me to, I think, a lot more accurately estimate deals beforehand and more importantly, stay out of deals that I probably shouldn't be in. So that's number 2. What is the third one? There's a couple points to this that I could go on for a long time about. I'll try not to. But I think one thing to be very cognizant about right now is demand. Okay. So the third one I'm going to say is demand. Again, if you go take a 100-acre farm that's just soil that's recently been tilled, it's loomy, it's not really like, if you go walk out to the property, is it an ideal home site? No, right? Like your ideal home site for these rural recreational properties, they got some trees, they got some coverage, they got some road frontage, right? If you think about a property like that and you're underwriting, you're going to sell it at the average price per acre in an area versus a really nice property down the road at the same price point, which one's going to sell? Obviously the nicer property down the road, right? And so there's 2 pieces to this. One, there's just the quality of that property. But 2 is that like we're not the only people who know about this strategy of buying land by, how do they say it? Buy it by the ranch and sell it by the pasture. I think there's a saying something around there. We're not the only people in the world that know you can buy large tracts of property, cut them into smaller, and sell them off for more money. And it's becoming increasingly more, I'm talking about it on the internet right now, right? So more people are doing it, which means more supply will come onto the market. So when I'm looking at an area, there's a couple things that I am thinking about if I'm evaluating a project for that area. How much new supply is there? Like how many people are doing exactly what I'm doing? And then where does my product stand in relation to that, right? Because I know for a fact a property within 90 minutes of Dallas-Fort Worth that has good frontage, good coverage, is a nice looking property, I can generally sell for 10,000 plus an acre, right? I kind of, in a lot of areas, a lot more, but I generally know that to be true. Now, if you give me a sandy, loomy piece of property, soil flat, no coverage, nothing, it's just an open field, right? That, A, I don't know if I can hold true to that, but B, that stood up against the property that has some trees, has some coverage. The 10,000 acre theory is going to go a lot more accurate for that one, right? And so as more properties come online, as more people have seen their property values increase, their land values increase over the last few years, there's more inventory, right? There's more stuff for sale, to say it well. And so I'm really interested in a market, what its demand side characteristics looks like. How many properties are selling in a 3, 6, 9, 12-month kind of analysis? And then what kinds of properties are selling? I think that last part, more the qualitative analysis of what's going on, is the most important. Because again, if I have a bunch of people who really don't know what they're doing, who've paper split farms up into properties, into the same example I've been using this whole time, and they flooded the market with new inventory, and that property, that type of property is not selling at the price point that they've listed it at. It's not an all-encompassing statement, if you will, that properties in that area aren't selling well. For example, I was looking at a market the other day where a bunch of properties had recently been cut up and listed. And so there was a lot of inventory in the market, and relatively not a lot had sold. Now, when I looked a little deeper into the analysis, I could see that a lot of these new properties were this pretty much exact example I'm giving you. Is somebody who didn't thoughtfully cut the property up, and they just cut long, skinny, sandy tracts of land that don't sell very well. So when you look at it from a qualitative standpoint, I still know if I brought good properties on in that area, that there is demand, but just that the type of properties that had been listed weren't necessarily attractive to the buyers in that area. Okay, so 3 things that I think catch people or trip them up when they're looking into a deal. Number 1, features. Okay, I think these days, when I was flipping land 5 years ago, the feature of the property I was less concerned about. But again, when there's more people doing this these days, our end buyers are actually humans who want to buy land. And one of the things they think through is, how does the property look, right? Is it beautiful? Does it feel serene? Does it feel like I'm out in nature? Those are the feelings that a buyer wants. And so features are something that you really need to think about when it comes to buying a subdivide property. Part 1A or part 2 is the concept, how you're going to cut the property up, right? A lot of people don't take into effect the natural features of the land, and they don't think about real physical objects or real physical contour to the property that might make you want to cut it up one way versus another. So when you're estimating, when you're on the front end of looking at a property, you can think more about like net usable acreage. Like, for example, I'm looking at a property right now where there's a big transmission line that runs through it. So instead of me trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to cut that portion of the property up, I'm just saying, hey, there's this portion of the property that is the transmission line portion. It is not going to sell for as much as the nice pristine portion that's 1,000 feet down the road or 2,000 feet down the road, right? So, okay, number 2 and number 3, what was it? Good demand. Is there good product? Are you bringing a good product to market in an area where people are buying, right? Just because there's a lot of stuff for sale, I showed this at a recent conference. Sorry, the comments get me all sidetracked. But there have been like 200, 300, 400% increases in properties listed over the last couple years, kind of through the boom of the last few years, versus just 3, 4, 5 years ago. The amount of land for sale, the amount of people raising their hands saying, hey, I want to sell my properties is a lot higher because the values have gone up so much. And so it's important to look at a market when you're going into one, when you're investing money into one, is there good demand? Are people buying properties in that market? But to go a little deeper, you want to make sure you understand what types of properties people are buying in that market. Because a lot of people who are new to land, they don't get, like, you're not going to get this honest level of instructing, if you will, that I'm giving you. But it's not just this magic unicorn where like you just list land for sale and just some random person buys it. Every market has its own little dynamics. There's things people want on properties. There's sizes of properties. The amount of times I've seen people go out and cut large ranches into 5 or 10 acre tracts when they're way out 1, 2, 3 hours away from town. People don't want 5 acre tracts when they're 2.5 hours away from a major city. They want 40 acres. They want 50 acres. They want 60 acres. But the idea just gets thrown around that you just cut properties down as small as you can make them. At the end of the day, it kind of comes down to just being a good steward of the property. But make sure you're understanding what is the micro dynamic in an area. What types of properties are people buying? How do you look at that? You just look at the sold properties, but you don't just look at them as data points. You actually look at them physically. Like, what kind of properties were they? What location were they in? Why, what kind of features did they have? What kind of frontage did they have? Did they have utilities, infrastructure, things to the effect? And making sure whatever kind of properties you're bringing to the market are going to be similar to those. Okay, that's what I got for you today, folks. On Monday, we're doing a case study, going over a deal, 11 o'clock. Leave a comment webinar if you want a link to that. We were going to do that today, but I cannot share all that information just publicly on the internet, so we have to move it to Monday so I can do it on Zoom, okay? If there's any questions, leave them now, and I'll answer them. How do you track which properties are in the subdivide process and not yet approved? I don't know exactly what that question is, and I can't see who it is because of my software. But let me pull this up real quick and see. How do you track? Oh, it's Blake. What up, Blake? How do you track which properties are in the subdivide process and not yet approved? Blake, I don't know what that question means. Sorry. I'm trying to think if I can come up with it. You are welcome. You are welcome. Blake, if you mean like on a county level, I'm just trying to estimate what you're talking about. If you mean like on a county level or on a city level, like which properties are like up for development, like rezoning, subdividing. I'm not. Yeah, I actually don't know what the question is. Sorry, Blake. I wish I could answer it. I was trying to come up with something for you, but I'm not sure what you're asking. Knowing how many other investors are in the approval process, so you can track what's coming on the market. Got it. That's kind of what I figured you were talking about. No, no, there's not like one. I mean, like every county is so different. I can talk about this. I don't know the exact answer, but I can talk about this from a slightly different lens. Is we track tax foreclosures in some key areas that I really like and that I know do a lot of tax foreclosures. And one thing we track is we have access to the county docket. So when things get filed, because when you file a tax foreclosure, you file a lawsuit. And so you're able to see, and that's public domain. So you're able to see when lawsuits are filed. So I would assume, depending on where you're wanting to track things, there is a formal process that's public domain, I would assume, whether it's through the county docket or it's through the county's planning and zoning commission minutes. I've done that a lot where I go through the minutes, and a lot of times it's this is the new development up for XYZ. As far as a software or something to track it all, I do not know, but I would pay for it. I know Land Vision. I know Land Vision is they have some things in there that track high density residential developments. Callan is actually about to do I don't know, she's doing something with Land Vision. It's like a course, and you get access to the license at a good price. You can tag her here. She'll respond to you if you want to ask her about it. But I know Land Vision has that, and I'm going to learn about that here in the near future. But that's the only software I've really heard of that tracks them. Most of them are very much at a county level, but man, if you know a couple of them in areas that are more A-class areas or good areas, there's a lot of little competitive advantage you can find there. So that's the only software I know of that actually tracks it. Jonathan says, I'm considering 3 lots of various size, total of 9 acres. Would you ever completely redraw the parcel lines altogether? It just depends. I mean, that's always the answer here, unfortunately. It just depends, because if it was already subdivided, it might not. If it's 3 lots totaling 9 acres, it was probably that was obviously cut up out of something larger. And so there could be existing CC&Rs in place that wouldn't let you cut it smaller or change it, assuming the county would let you. Then yeah, I would do whatever is most profitable, right? But sometimes when they're cut that small, it's going to be challenging to get them much smaller, unless you're in a really dense city or area. But yeah, I just have to look at the deal, Jonathan. I don't know exactly. But if the county would let you redraw the parcel lines altogether, and there's a more profitable way to do it, I would definitely look into that. But yeah, I don't know if you'd be able to. Discovery review for cost of $550. Yeah. I mean, there's a few firms that do $500,000 discovery review. What I find is that you're for me, I don't want to try and solve everything on the front end. I want to get the dang deal under contract. And I don't know. I've talked to a lot of land sellers, and people come in and out of wanting to sell very quickly. So when the iron's hot and somebody's ready to move on a contract or put a deal together, in my opinion, you got to move, because people lose deals way too often by sitting on their hands wanting to do a discovery review. And then it takes a week or two and the sellers change their mind, or they've sold it to somebody else, or they've brought in a realtor, which is an all too likely story. So yeah, man, very much a fan of using engineers and people smarter than me in the right context. But when you're chasing deals all day, you got to be able to estimate well. And so we don't sit on our hands for an engineer to review a property. Is undeveloped land too risky for a first-time purchase? It just depends. Are you getting it 50% of market value, right? If you're getting it at 50% of market value, then no, because you're buying it half off, right? Um, if you're speculating, let's say, if you're buying a piece of property with the intent to make it worth more by rezoning it, entitling it, changing the land use, um, putting a project together and getting a site plan approved. If you're looking to add value in that way, I probably wouldn't do that as my first investment. I'd probably look more to like flipping a deal or wholesaling a deal. Like, for example, right now, as we're speaking, I'm talking to a wholesaler, and I think we're going to put a deal together. It's a subdivide deal, just like we're talking here. It's a few 100-acre tract. It's got a ton of road frontage. It's pretty much perfect for what I do. Price is great. They know they have no way to take it down. They know I say this different. They know it's not their business to like go and do that. They're land wholesalers. And they called me up and brought a deal to the table, and they're probably going to make 50 to 100 grand on it. Right. Just depends on how a couple of things shake out. But if the contracts get signed, like I think they're going to, then they will make $50 to $100,000. And then the answer to your question would be no. That would be very unrisky of them because they just found the deal and they brought it to me, and I will buy it for more than they have it under contract for. That's why it's important to be able to understand how to look at a property and recognize something with good potential. So yes or no question, or there's a lot of different answers to that. If you're speculating, probably would not do that for your first one. Let's see, what's this one? Have you done a larger scale subdivision project with 70 to 100 lots that are 7? We said so far I've only done larger tract deals. The most I've had was like 27 lots, and all of them were 7+ acres, most of them 10+ acres. So that's the most I've done. I'm looking at it's just a little bit of a different ball game. So I'm looking at a lot of these projects right now, and this is kind of part of the like, I want to make sure I bring a good product to the market, right? Because I see people that do projects like this too. And these are the tricky ones because these are the ones that have a lot of infrastructure costs, a lot of engineering costs, a lot of time. And sometimes I see people kind of force the hand with these. So how I'm looking through them, I haven't taken one of those projects full cycle, but I'm involved in quite a few of them right now, and really looking to put a large one together. The thing that really continues to stick out to me is like, I don't know how to say it other than I just want it to be a great deal, right? I don't want anything marginal. The infrastructure cost is way higher than most people are expecting it to be. And so with those, like I just really want it to be a good product in a good area with good demand. I don't want those to sit on my balance sheet forever. In fact, I would rather somebody freaking buy the lots, buy the unfinished lots for me before I take them. What we've been looking at, who's this? Bill Goldsberg. Good question. What we've been looking at lately, and this is how I'm kind of gauging, is this project something that I think is interesting or not, is can I pre-sell some of the lots? Like if I go take down 300 acres for a 1 acre type division, I probably cannot bring all of those lots to market at one time. So I'm seeing during my due diligence period if I can sell part of that property before I get it to close. If I have a few builders that are really interested, then that is kind of my like signal that this is probably a good deal, because then I can like really lower my costs on the land basis and I can bring the rest of them to market whenever it makes sense. So that's kind of how I'm thinking through the first end is like, and especially if there's lots that can come off of existing frontage, that's kind of the home run for me, right? There's a couple deals we're looking at right now, real hoping we can get one of them to the finish line. But there's a lot of existing frontage, and then there's a lot of internal property. And so I'm trying to see if I can bring the existing frontage lots to market first, sell those as paper lots, or they're not really paper, they're already ready to go, to a developer or to a builder, and then retain the, call it the meat, the inside of the property for like a phase 2, if you will. That's how I'm looking at those right now, because you can really, how I've looked at it, a couple of the projects, you can really bring your land basis almost to nothing if you have a lot of frontage and you can sell a lot of roads off existing frontage. So that's kind of my thoughts there. Angie says get entitlements and flip those to a developer. Way less risk. I agree, Angie. If only there were 1 million of those just sitting around and the sellers didn't want insane amounts of money for them. But yeah, that's the best way to do it. No doubt. Okay, folks, hope you have a great day. Thanks for joining. If you want to go to the webinar next Monday, leave a comment. Somebody will send you a link, say webinar. We're doing it on Zoom. We're not doing it on the internet because I can't leave all these details out there forever. So enjoy. Hope to see you next Monday. Have a great week. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.